Hi, I'm Nikki from Find Me Crafting. A couple of years ago, I came across a bunch of craft projects I really wanted to learn how to do with epoxy. Tumblers and badge reels and pens and keychains and so many fun looking things. And I started to do all the research into what the best products were to use and how to use it. And I was really excited. And then I started to see comments from other crafters about all the problems they had with allergic reactions and respiratory problems and rashes and how much personal protective equipment you're supposed to wear when using epoxy. And then you're supposed to do it outside, definitely not inside a home, which is where I do all of my crafting. I resigned myself to just not ever being able to do those craft projects and get the results that I wanted. And then I came across Crystalac products. Crystalac is a company that has non-toxic, water-based, very low, minimal amounts of fumes to all their products. And yet those products give you the same awesome sort of finishes and durability as epoxy or resin. I jumped in and have made so many things with Crystalac products and I love them, which is why when my daughter recently asked me if I'd make her some badge reels for her internship at a hospital, I was all in. It gives me the perfect opportunity to show you how I make customized badge reels with Crystalac. I'll show you how to add glitter to an acrylic blank and how to add vinyl like these little eyes and mouth, or maybe vinyl like the Dr. Pepper can, to an acrylic blank that you could turn into a badge reel. I'll also show you how to use UV DTF decals for something like this for a badge reel, or something like this. Come on, I'll show you how. If you like this comment, please give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell down below so that you don't miss any new patterns or projects. If you'd like more content like this about Crystalac, just drop me a comment in the comment box down below.
Let's talk about what you're going to need for supplies. You're going to need some clear acrylic blanks. So these come with a protective paper on the front and back. So these are clear acrylic. You just can't tell because they have this paper protecting them from scratches. I ordered these from a website called moxievinyls.com. The link will be down in the description box below. I ordered this because a couple of them that I really wanted to do came with UV DTF decals. So to make these, they use a printing method that uses UV light to cure the ink on the film. And it is scratch, fade, and water resistant. When I get to that portion of the craft, I just have to peel this top layer off, and this is going to transfer really, really easily. And the ones that I have here are exact cutouts. They're going to fit perfectly with this decal. So it's going to go together really quickly for these. And I have all this beautiful color, lots of bang for my buck. On some of the other ones, like the Peep one and this is going to be a Dr. Pepper can, I'm going to be using my Cricut to cut vinyl and apply that to the front. I did order the size that was slightly less than 2 inches. You could go larger for sure. It just depends on how you want your badge reels to look. I also ordered these without holes because I'm not attaching it to a keychain or anything, so I order the no holes option. You're also going to need some badge reels themselves. This is what they look like. This part pulls in and out. You can order different colors for this. I order the clear because I figure it's easiest to camouflage behind the acrylic blank, but if you wanted a color, nothing's gonna slow you down there. You're going to need some glue at the end to attach the acrylic blank to the badge reel. I like to use E6000. It holds just everything forever. You're going to need some sandpaper. I'm going to be using the 220 grit to sand at the beginning. And then when I'm sanding between layers of top coat, I will be using a 400 grit. For my top coat, I am going to be using Crystalac's Grand Finale. This is high gloss. It is self-leveling. It's water-based. It is epoxy-free. It's fantastic. You're going to love it. It leaves everything with a super high glossy shine. It's very easy to use. I do put mine into a Dollar Tree condiment bottle that I lost the lid to so that it's easy to apply to other things you don't want to be trying to apply right out of this tub. I'm also going to be using the Crystalac clear glitter glue to apply my glitter. This is the best way I have found to apply glitter to plastic and acrylic and tumblers. I'm also going to be using a number of different colors of extra fine glitter. You can use fine glitter, you can use chunky glitter, you can use whatever size you want. The thicker your glitter, the more coats it will take to cover it and make it smooth on your acrylic blank. So you can definitely use all the other sizes of glitter. This is going to be the fastest, and I like that, so that's what I'm going to be using. You need some rubbing alcohol, and a paper towel or a coffee filter work to apply the rubbing alcohol and rub it off. I like coffee filters just because they're inexpensive and they don't leave fuzz behind while you're wiping things off with them. To make it a little easier to work with the acrylic blank as we start applying top coat, I'm going to be using popsicle sticks and a little bit of tape. Optionally, you may also want an X-Acto knife or a Cricut True Control blade to cut away any bits of Grand Finale that end up dried between the pieces of acrylic. If you're applying any of your designs with vinyl and using a Cricut or a Silhouette to cut it, you are of course going to need your permanent vinyl in whatever colors you need, a standard grip cutting mat, a weeding tool, transfer tape, and of course a Cricut. To start off, I want to point out that I recommend using a tablecloth, one that you don't mind throwing away, on top of your work surface, because you're going to be dealing with a lot of glitter and sticky things that will never wipe up. And I know that this isn't pretty, but it's protecting the pretty surface underneath. So that's your one warning: cover your surface or regret it later. You want to start out by removing the protective paper, coating, whatever you want to call that, from one side of your acrylic blank. Not both sides, we're going to leave this side alone, but from one side, you're going to want to peel that off. And make sure that the side you're peeling off is really your front, because my last one, I peeled off the wrong side. That's not going to work there. So I want to apply the glitter to the side that's going to be underneath my decal or underneath my vinyl. So make sure that if it has a direction, you're picking the right one and peeling off the front. Next, I want to put a popsicle stick on the back of my acrylic blank. That'll make it a little easier to work with going forward so that I'm not trying to hold the edges of my acrylic blank after I've glittered it, because I don't want to touch the glitter. I want it to stay in the right spot. So this will give me a handle so that I'm not touching the front or sides of my blank. But you want to make sure that the tape obviously is not visible on the front. You don't want it to touch any of the sides or the front of your acrylic blank. Now, actually, before you put on the popsicle stick or after, we need to rough up the top of this acrylic blank. So I'm using my 400 grit, and I'm really just going to sand all over it. We want to scuff it up. It makes all of the glitter and the top coats adhere better if it's roughed up. Next up, I'm going to use some rubbing alcohol and a coffee filter. Like I said, you can also use a paper towel. I'm just going to rub that across the front. I want to remove all of the acrylic dust and also any oils from my fingertips or dirt or anything like that. You want this to be a nice clean surface to adhere to. And then just let your rubbing alcohol dry. Try not to get it on your paper underneath like I just did. You do want to have a piece of paper underneath for this next step because we want it to catch any extra glitter. I put a little bit of glitter glue into one of these tiny little cups, and I did get my paintbrush wet with just water. It does help the glitter glue go on a little bit better. So I'm going to get some on my paintbrush and just paint over the top of my acrylic blank. If you get a little on the sides, it's fine. Just smooth it out because it'll just dry clear. Once you have a nice even layer on top of the glitter glue, you're going to sprinkle on your glitter. You just want to cover the entire front with glitter. Shake off any excess. That's my first layer of glitter. It is going to need a second layer so that it's nice and dark, but no more is going to stick to it than that. So I'm gonna set this down somewhere safe and let it dry for 2 hours before we come back and add a second coat. At this point though, I am going to pour this glitter back into my container because I don't want to waste this glitter. It's not cheap. Don't forget to rinse your paintbrush in between applications of glitter glue because if it dries on your paintbrush, it's pretty much toast. Now it's time to apply a second layer of glitter because we want it to be very much not see-through. We want it to be completely covered. So you use a wet paintbrush again, and you're going to dab on some of the glitter glue. Again, cover the whole front here with glue. Actually, I'm going to pour some onto you here just because I'm trying not to mix glitter into my glue here that I'm using. This might be too much. I may have overglued. Yep, I'm going to brush some off. And it's time to dump on some more glitter. There we go, and that will probably be enough to cover it completely. And now it's time to wait another 2 hours while this glue dries. Now that I have a good coating of glitter, it looks completely solid. There's no spaces or gaps or thin areas. Now it's time to seal this glitter so that it doesn't move around or shift when we're applying our top coat. So I'm going to once again be using glitter glue. I'm just going to put some on the top of the glitter. My paintbrush is wet again, and I just want to put it on just like I've been doing. Just put it on top of the glitter to seal it in place. Very easy process. You don't necessarily have to do this, but it does ensure that your glitter looks exactly like it looks right here when it's done. Nothing will shift during those few first coats. And I just need to let this dry again for 2 hours. Next up, we want to start adding layers of the top coat. We need this glitter to feel smooth before we apply any vinyl or decals, because if you don't, you will see little bumps through your vinyl or your decal, and it's less pretty. So you want this to be smooth. So we're going to add layers of top coat, allow it to dry for 2 hours, and then after every 3 layers of top coat, we're going to lightly sand it, and then add another 3 layers, 2 hours of dry time between them, and then sand it. So you want to grab your grand finale. Here's my pretty bottle. You want to shake it up a little bit because the solids can settle at the bottom. You're going to add some to the top here. And I will say that these first couple layers do require more of the product because it's almost as if the glitter is soaking it in. I don't think it is. It's just settling between the little pieces of glitter, but it does require more for the first few layers. Once you get into later layers, it requires very little of the product. But you're just going to keep adding it until this feels like it's all wet and smooth. It is self-leveling, so you don't have to worry about there being any spots where there's more of the product versus less. And once you have the whole top, yep, I can feel it's all smooth. You can use gloves for this process. I find it much easier to use my bare finger because you can feel exactly where you need more product. And then when I'm done applying to all of my pieces here, I'm just going to go wash my hands. It washes right off. It's not a big deal. So that is the process you're going to do. That's my first layer, and I'm going to repeat that 2 more times, 2 hours in between. It is nice while you're adding these layers to run your finger along the edge too, so that any glitter you have that's right here at the edge is going to be smoothed out. Another little tip I have for you is as you're adding your layers, I keep a notepad nearby or a dry erase board. I've done both, because even though you feel like there's no way you're going to forget when you added that last coat, you will. Over time, you will forget when you added it, when you're supposed to add the new one. I just add the time that I did the last layer, and then I set an alarm typically on my watch or my phone to remind me to add another layer. But this way, when I come back to it, whenever I come back to it, I know when I've added my last layer, I know if it's dry and I can add yet another layer. For this next step, I do recommend wearing a dust or sanding mask, just like you would if you were sanding anything else. I also choose to go outside or hang out in my garage while I do this step. After you've waited 2 hours for your third grand finale application to dry, bust out your 400 grit sandpaper. Lightly sand the glitter and grand finale. You don't want to be too vigorous at this stage because you can sand the top of your glitter clean off. I can admit I've done that. But at the same time, you do need to begin smoothing the surface, so there does need to be some sanding that takes place.
Now, run water over the sanded area to remove the dust. If you don't remove it, that dust will be trapped in the next layer of Grand Finale and make your end result cloudy. Immediately after rinsing with water, completely dry the area. Then it's time for another round of Grand Finale layering. From here on forward, you can sand after every 3 layers of Grand Finale. You want to keep adding layers and sanding until the acrylic is pretty smooth. This usually takes me a total of 6 layers. If it doesn't feel smooth yet, continue adding layers and sanding every 3. If it does feel smooth after your 6th layer, sand once more, and then it's time to apply the decal or vinyl to your badge reel. If you're using vinyl and you purchase your blanks from Moxie Vinyl, they'll send you an email with an upload of the designs to use in Cricut Design Space. Use that upload to get your design ready and then cut it out with your Cricut. Weed out any areas you don't want, like the background or the centers of letters. Since these designs tend to be rather small because they're going on a small area, you might want to use the reverse weeding technique. Cut a piece of transfer tape slightly larger than the design, and before doing any weeding on your cut piece, place the transfer tape over the top of it. Scrape over the backing of the vinyl and then peel away the backing. You should be left with a block of the design that still has all of the pieces, including the background, etc. Now use your weeding tool to remove the largest chunks of the vinyl you don't want, like the middles of the letters. The transfer tape will hold the pieces you do want in place so they don't come up while weeding out the areas you don't want. Now you can transfer your design to the acrylic blank with your transfer tape, and it's ready for the next steps. If you're using a UV DTF transfer, just peel the protective layer off the back of the transfer so that you're looking at transfer tape holding your design. Center it on your acrylic and press down. Peel off the transfer tape and it's ready to go. You'll want to add at least a few layers of Grand Finale on top of the vinyl or the decal so the edges aren't ever going to peel up. I like my designs to feel completely smooth, so I apply another 6 layers for vinyl, sanding after every 3 layers, and at least 3 layers on top of decal transfers. If you're using your bare finger to apply the Grand Finale on top of the decal, it should feel slippery but not sloppy. Once it's all dry and smooth, peel off the tape and popsicle stick and the protective paper you left on the back of the blank. And if need be, clean up any areas where there's an excess of Grand Finale between sections of the acrylic with an X-Acto knife or a Cricut True Control blade. Then all that's left to do is glue the acrylic onto a badge reel. I use E6000 for this and let it dry for 6 to 8 hours or overnight. Now those colorful, fun badge reels are ready to be put to work. Whether you're using them yourself or giving them away, customized badge reels are a great way to bring some glitter and pizzazz to an everyday useful tool. Happy crafting!